A Murder Foretold, the unsolved killing of Robert Wagner. Hello, I'm Jay Nickel of Nickel Investigations, and this is Ontario Cold Cases, Canada's true crime podcast. They were out to get him, and they got him. He knew it was coming. That was a chilling warning Robert Wagner gave his brother-in-law just weeks before he was brutally murdered. He didn't say who, he didn't say why, but he was certain of one thing: his time was running out. On January 22nd, 1991, police found Wagner's lifeless body inside his Cambridge, Ontario apartment. He'd been stabbed multiple times in a savage attack. Their murder weapon never recovered. The crime scene, a mystery. His funeral was closed casket. The violence was that extreme. Authorities believe Wagner, a welder by trade, had a dangerous secret, second life that may have gotten him killed. 3 months after his death, police revealed he had been selling small amounts of hashish and cocaine on the side. Their theory: he was murdered by a customer. But Wagner's family isn't so sure. They say police didn't dig deep enough, that his involvement in Cambridge's underworld was far bigger than law enforcement suggested. And here's the part that will keep you up at night: the case remains unsolved. For more than 3 decades, Wagner's family has waited for justice, waited for someone to break their silence, waited for the truth. Tonight, we take you deep into one of Ontario's most chilling cold cases, a murder where the victim saw his fate coming, but no one has ever answered the question. Who was out to get Robert Wagner? And why did they want him dead? This is Ontario Cold Cases, Canada's true crime podcast. Hello, I'm Jay Nickel of Nickel Investigations, and this is Ontario Cold Cases, Canada's true crime podcast. Ontario Cold Cases is a gripping true crime podcast that shines a light on unsolved murders, disappearances, and forgotten crimes from across the province and the world. With meticulous research, compelling storytelling, and a commitment to historical accuracy, we bring you the real stories of victims, investigators, and suspects, stories that demand to be heard. Each week, we take you deep into the world of true crime with a packed schedule of episodes. Tuesdays, historical true crime cases, exploring infamous and obscure crimes from history. Wednesdays, the Mick and Mac Mysteries, a thrilling fictional detective series set in 1950s Toronto. Thursdays, World Cold Case Thursday, investigating unsolved cases from around the globe. Sundays, Ontario Cold Cases, the latest episode uncovering an unsolved mystery from Ontario. From high-profile crimes that shock the nation to little-known cases waiting for justice, we uncover the truth, one case at a time. Join us as we explore the dark corners of history and mystery, where every clue could lead to answers and every case deserves a second look. Subscribe now wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts and never miss an episode of Ontario Cold Cases, Canada's true crime podcast. They're out to get him, and they got him. Robert Wagner saw it coming. The 31-year-old Cambridge, Ontario man, known as Robbie to his family, met a brutal end inside his apartment, Unit 320 at 142 Woodside Avenue. Stabbed multiple times, his lifeless body was discovered on January 22, 1991. Investigators estimate his death occurred sometime between the late afternoon of January 21st and noon the following day. The murder weapon? Never found. It was a friend who made the grim discovery, checking in after Wagner failed to show up for work at Babcock and Wilcox. where he worked as a welder. Calls to his phone went unanswered. The crime was so savage that his funeral had to be closed casket. Those are the cold, hard facts. But the most chilling detail came weeks before his death. Sometime before Christmas 1990, Robbie confided in his brother-in-law, Roy Bartlett. According to his sister, Phyllis Bartlett, Robbie made an eerie prediction. He had 3 weeks to live. He never said why. And 3 weeks later, he was dead. They got him. They were out to get him, and they got him, said Phyllis Wagner, who still calls Brantford the family's hometown home. 3 months after Robert Wagner's murder, police dropped a bombshell. Wagner wasn't just a welder. He was a small-time drug dealer, selling small amounts of hashish and cocaine. Then Detective Howie Fiddler told the media. Investigators believed he was likely killed by one of his customers. But Phyllis wasn't convinced police had dug deep enough. They didn't go down the rabbit hole for enough, she said, insisting her brother was more entangled in Cambridge's drug underworld than authorities let on. The family had downplayed his involvement, especially to their mother Marilla, who had relentlessly pressed police for answers. I do really think it was a hit, Phyllis said, and the warning signs were there. In the weeks before his death, Wagner had confided in his brother-in-law, Roy Bartlett. He'd been stepping on the wrong toes, moving in circles he shouldn't. He told Roy he was a dead man walking. Then, as if sealing his own fate, he handed over his prized Lincoln Town car. It was only later, after Roy sold the car to a pizza shop owner, that a chilling discovery was made. Drugs stashed in the wheels. By summer 1991, with no new leads and a record-breaking 11 homicides that year, the case went cold. A brief resurgence in 1992 saw detectives eliminating Wagner's co-workers, friends, and customers as suspects, but no smoking gun emerged. The prevailing theory? He was murdered by someone from Cambridge's drug scene, a customer, an associate, or someone he was using with that night. Years passed. Wagner's case, like so many others, faded into the background. Then in 1999 it was reopened. Police received new information, though they remained tight-lipped about what it was. Staff Sergeant Peter Insignia admitted that even before reopening the case, they still had suspects from 1991 who had never been eliminated. To reignite public interest, police put up a $10,000 reward, hoping cash might loosen tongues. The move paid off, hinting at a disturbing possibility. Wagner may have been killed by more than one person. But no arrests were made. Police admitted they could have done more. Phyllis didn't disagree. They more or less brushed us off, she said bitterly. You really don't want to blame the police, but after 6 months, it felt like no one was doing anything. All Mom and Dad wanted to know was, did they catch the guy? What's going on? Brenda Kantz, Wagner's other sister, echoed the frustration from her home in Amherst, Nova Scotia. Some of us blame the police for not doing enough, or for not staying on it long enough, Kant said. But the biggest question, the one that's haunted the Wagner family for decades, remains unanswered. Why? And in a town like Cambridge, where people talk, Brenda is convinced the truth is out there. I'm thinking people know something, she said, and someone's hiding it. Up next, who was involved? Who was involved? The deeper police dug into Robert Wagner's murder, the clearer one thing became. He wasn't killed by just one person. Investigators began working with a chilling new theory. Wagner's death was the work of multiple perpetrators. His sister, Brenda Kantz, who is 8 years his senior, remembers police floating the names of 3 possible suspects in conversations 2 decades ago. Yet there was a problem. At the time, their mother Marilla was told by police that only Wagner's DNA was found at the scene. No evidence of another person. No forensic smoking gun. And despite widespread speculation, police refused to confirm to the media whether any DNA had been recovered at all. Could that still change? Maybe. Inspector Mark Crowell of the Waterloo Region Police remains cautiously optimistic. I can't speak to the specific forensic evidence in this case, he said, but I can say that all unsolved homicide investigations undergo recurring review and reprioritization based on available information, evidence, and resources. Crowell acknowledged that advances in forensic technology might one day shed new light on Wagner's murder. Any future analysis, he explained, will be done in coordination with the Ontario Centre of Forensic Sciences. Back in 1999, when detectives Stefan Etzes and Shirley Hilton reopened the case, they turned to experts for a new angle. The Ontario Provincial Police's Behavioral Science Division was brought in to build a psychological profile of the killer, a method that had cracked other cold cases. The results painted a disturbing portrait. The murderer was no criminal mastermind. Police believed he was of average intelligence but street smart, manipulative, deceptive, and dangerous. He had a violent past, likely a history of imprisonment, and was trapped in a toxic, volatile relationship. He also believed he drove an old, beat-up car. And that last detail sent a shiver down Marilla's spine. Before her death, Wagner's mother had sought answers beyond police files, turning to psychics, clairvoyants, and even a Ouija board. One psychic told her a brown or dark-colored car, a Camaro or Firebird, had been involved. More hauntingly, a woman was connected to the crime. She had 2 children, was deeply disturbed, and needed psychiatric help. Her granddaughter, Molly Bartlett, remembers one of the strangest moments vividly. About 15 years ago, she and her grandmother used a Ouija board to reach out to Wagner. I'll never forget because it was a cool thing when my nana did it, Molly recalled. The message was eerie. Wagner reassured them that he was okay and left them with 2 cryptic letters. B.J. Marilla and Molly believed the initials held the key to his murder. They later heard rumors that B.J. had relocated to British Columbia. Whether a B.J. was involved or not, Phyllis Wagner remains convinced people close to her brother know more than they're admitting. One moment stands out. We ran into Robert's friend at a restaurant once, Phyllis recalled. The moment he saw them, his face went pale. Without a word, he got up and ran. That told Phyllis everything she needed to know. He knows more than anything, she said, and we can't find him. Up next, the case hits a wall. The case hits a wall. And just like that, the trail went cold. For years, investigators chased leads, questioned suspects, and sifted through theories, but no arrests. No justice. There's one case that haunted Staff Sergeant Brent Tomlinson, the one that never let go. Upon his retirement in 2013, after 31 years in the force, Tomlinson admitted that Wagner's murder was his biggest regret. He'd been there from the beginning when the original detectives assigned to the case. 12 years earlier, speaking to the Cambridge Reporter, Tomlinson had made a bold statement. This has been with me a long time, but it is solvable. They weren't chasing ghosts. They had persons of interest, suspects, a path forward. But what they didn't have was a missing piece. The one person willing to break their silence. Someone out there knows something, Tomlinson had insisted. What we need is that person to come forward and tell us what they know. But no one ever did. No closure. Closure never came. Staff Sergeant Brent Tomlinson wanted justice, not for himself, but for Wagner's parents. But justice never came either. George Wagner never got his peace. He died in 1997, long before the case was reopened. Marilla never got her answers. She passed away in 2013, just 2 months after Tomlinson retired. Both Mom and Dad had hoped to get some sort of closure, said Brenda Kantz, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. For Brenda, watching her parents go to their graves without answers was more painful than her own need to see her brother's killer caught. We all sort of wished it would have given them peace of mind, she said. It's heartbreaking for any parent to lose a child and to lose them in that way. The years have blurred some of the pain, but they haven't eased it. You watch all those crime stories, she said. You hear about them, how they affect other people, but you never think it'll happen to you. That'll come into your family. Even after all these years, talking about her brother still stirs up old wounds. Ones that serve us on birthdays, holidays, the times when families should be together. And not all the emotions are pleasant. I'm thinking, whoever has done it got their just rewards, karma. Wagner wasn't perfect. He had his demons. But Brenda remembers the brother behind the headlines. The quiet man who kept to himself, worked hard, and still made time for his parents. Every weekend he'd drive down to Brantford. Marilla would cook his favorite meal, chili. And no matter what, he always called her just to say hi. Up next, we all miss him. We all miss him. We all miss him, Brenda Kant said softly. Time has passed, but grief lingers. He's gone. You keep him close to your heart, and that's all you can do. You can't dwell on the life he could have had. Still, every year that slips by brings the same thought. What if? What would he have been doing at this age, she wonders. But it wasn't to be. His life was cut short. It's been over 3 decades since Wagner's murder, and while Kantz has learned to live without answers, a part of her still holds on to hope, however faint. I don't know, she admitted. Maybe someone will take an interest and decide it's worthwhile. And if that moment ever comes, if it happens, it happens. For us who are still here, still waiting for that closure. For Phyllis Wagner, closure feels even further away. She doesn't believe they're any closer to catching her brother's killer. It's been over 20 years, she said. Some of these crimes, they do figure out, but it seems like they're not doing anything anymore. Her frustration is clear. The original lead investigator, Brent Tomlinson, is long since retired. Do you think they're going to pass it on to somebody else? Keep these cold cases going, she asked. Since 1999, nothing new has surfaced. But Inspector Mark Crowell insists that the case isn't forgotten, just waiting for the right break. If new information came to light, our major crime unit would quickly move it to the top of the priority list, he said. Even with an already heavy caseload, Crowell assured that the Waterloo Regional Police Service has the ability to pull in extra resources. For example, we may bring in an additional investigators from our criminal investigations branch, officers with the training and experience needed to assist in these complex homicide cases. It's a promise. After all these years, is it enough? For now, the case remains open but stagnant, a cold case waiting for someone to step forward. Anyone with information is urged to call police at 519-570-9777 or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS. They're out to get him, and they got him. For over 30 years, the murder of Robert Wagner has remained a mystery. A case frozen in time, waiting for the one crucial break, the missing piece that could finally reveal the truth. Someone out there knows something. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's a friend, a neighbor, someone who was there but stayed silent. Maybe it's just a rumor, a whispered name, a long-buried secret that needs to be spoken. If you have any information, no matter how small, please contact Waterloo Regional Police at 519-570-9777 or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. Justice doesn't expire. Neither does the truth. If you enjoyed this episode of Ontario Cold Cases, Canada's True Crime Podcast, don't forget to follow, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, we're there. With new episodes every day, bringing you some of Ontario's most chilling unsolved cases as well as cases from around the world. And if you have a case suggestion or a cold case you want us to cover, reach out. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or visit our website. I'm Jay Nickel. This has been Ontario Cold Cases. And remember, somebody always knows something.